we're going to talk about some games here. The first one up is based off a video game called Bloodbourne.
Yes, the card game. The design was Eric Lang. Starting off bad already. The artist was Sean Chancey and published by Cool Mini or Not.
I forgot the card game was part of the title. My bad. Yes, it is Bloodbourne, the card game. I own this game. Not the, I own the card game, obviously, but I also own the PS4 game, and it's in shrink, and I've had it since last November. So, Black Friday is awesome, but I guess it doesn't really help you much if you don't play the games you buy.
Right.
Anyway, I got a huge library of games, so, anyway, in Bloodbourne, there's a story. I don't really know the actual story, but essentially, the game brings over the frustrations of, like, the Dark Souls series, where it's incredibly hard and difficult. And there's two major things in the game that they kind of translated into a board game. But we'll just talk about the board game. So if you want to hear about any kind of, or if you want to read about Bloodbourne lore and things like that, just Wikipedia or whatever. It's not really needed for the gameplay of this. So if you're familiar with a game called Cutthroat Caverns, this is very similar in feel, but, it plays differently, obviously. Each player has a hand of cards. You start with 5 different cards. And basically, you're going to form a deck of minions that you need to fight through. And then there's a final boss. Well, basically, what you're trying to do is play one card from your hand face down. Everybody does this. You flip them up, and you resolve them in turn order. And then the turn order changes or whatever. So what you're trying to do, they have hit points, and you're trying to, they're called blood echoes. So this monster might have 8 blood echoes. You're trying to get as many of those blood echoes by doing damage before it dies. So you have to cooperate because most of the monsters only stay around one round before they escape. Whereas like the boss monsters or they'll stay around forever. But the normal minions and stuff, they try to run away. So you want to try to do as much damage to it in that round to get as many blood echoes, because also if it dies and you have done damage to it, you get trophies. And depending on how many trophies you have of the same type, it's increasing points. You can get upgrades and things like that. So replace cards out of your hand. You have like a max hand size, I think 7. So as you get new upgrades, you start with 5, so you can get 2 extra. But then once you start getting more of those, you start replacing like your starter cards, things like that. Now, the interesting thing about it, there's a couple of things. One, the final boss kind of dictates how the gameplay is the whole time, because they have a special ability that applies to the game itself. Such as one will be like everybody's max health is 6. Or another one is if you die twice, you're removed from the game. So there is no player elimination in this game normally, but that guy brings in player elimination for that game. There's a couple of different bosses. I'm sure we'll talk about those later. And basically the other big thing that they bring over, or 2 things. One is infinite damage. So bosses and minions and stuff like that in Dark Souls and Demon Souls and Bloodborne sometimes will just kill you in one hit, because they're way more powerful than you, but you don't know that until you get hit. So in this game, it kind of represents that by doing bursting die rolls, I guess. Mm-hmm. You have a die, depending on the difficulty, it's green, yellow, red. And they have different stars on there. And so if you roll a star, it might add 2 points of damage, but then you roll again. And so theoretically, I think 33% of the sides have a star. So you can keep rolling, and eventually everybody dies. Because everybody only has 8 hit points anyway.
Right.
The last thing is, as you're doing damage to these monsters, you claim those blood echoes, and they're kind of put into a storage area on your board because you're kind of carrying them around. You need to bank them by going into a hunter's dream, which is kind of like a sleep state. And that hunter's dream allows you to take half damage for the round, but then you get to like basically set up camp or whatever.
Right.
And you get your, you refill your hit points, you get to upgrade your card, you get to bank your blood echoes so you can never lose those. So you're trying to push as far as you can, gather as many blood echoes, rest. Do the same thing and just go over and over. And then at the end of the game, after the stack of, I think it's like 10 cards that you go through, and then you fight the 11th card, which is the boss, the final boss, who has tons of hit points. And after that, the game is finished. Whoever has the most points through all their blood echoes and their trophy points is the winner. So, Matt, I think you played this one time?
Yes.
Because I've played it a couple times now. So what is your initial impressions of the game?
My first impression of the game is I like the trophy board. Somewhat reminiscent of Blood Rage in a sense, except it's not giving you extra bonuses throughout the game. It's just in goal points.
Right.
The dice set up because the monster cards tell you what dice to use if it's green, yellow, red. Kind of felt a little like zombie dice in a sense. Trying to because you knew which one was would hit you harder. I think they had the same chance to burst on you, but it would just be depending on how
the numbers are higher.
The numbers are higher. And pressure luck. I mean, pressure luck is always fun. I enjoy pressure luck a lot, but I don't know. The gameplay itself ended up being kind of stagnant in the sense with that hunter dream, because you play cards. It seemed like every other time because you only have 8 health and stuff depending on the die. I mean, even the green was hitting you for 2. Take that back. I don't remember exactly. I think there was a 0 and a 1, maybe. Maybe the 2 was the max side.
I think there was a 2 on the max side.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe just at worst it can do 2.
But I mean, either way, even the green boss or monsters can burst you all to death.
Yes, they can. And I think actually the time I died was on a green monster because I went to try and push my luck just a hair further than I should have. I think I had 5 health. It was like, a green monster can't kill me, and sure enough, it bursted out and got me. So, I mean, it's got pressure luck, but you feel like it's just the smart decision to hit what you can on a monster, and you're probably going to Hunter Dream on the next one. Because you're getting hit. I mean, if you get hit for anything significant, 3-4 damage. Now, 4 damage, you're halfway down. And so, I don't know. It was stagnant and that just kind of mindless. Like, okay, get as much as I can on this one, dream. Get as much as I can on this one, dream.
Yeah, and we played it 5 players, is that right?
Yeah, and that was a 5-player.
I've played it with all like 3, 4, and 5. And the thing is, I feel like in 5 players, you could play it safe way easy. Because, okay, I'm the 5th player now, right? Because every time you fight, the first player marker moves to your left. So if I just went and I was first, now it moves to my left and I'm last. There's no reason for me to be out here. You know what I mean? Like, why am I going to even risk it?
Right.
So, I mean, unless I just have 0 blood echoes. Yeah, but I mean, I guess some people will say that's when you want to start pulling out the pistol, but people are going to, they're going to know that. And plus the other thing is that transform card seems to be a little, I don't know, like I almost wish that wasn't in the game. It's probably thematic to what's going on in the game on the, the video game.
Right.
But you're like, well, I think he's probably going to play his pistol. I'll play transform just to see what he does.
Right.
Now I could play transform as well. And I guess that's some of the jump back and forth on what you're going to do or whatever. But in the end, all that was for 1 blood echo. It's kind of like, I mean, it's just, I'm conflicted with this game. Like, I'm going to play it way more times because I do want to review it for real. But at the same time, I just feel like there's a bunch of things I'm just kind of like meh about, even though I really like the concept. I mean, Cutthroat Caverns is one of my favorite games. Maybe not like top 10, but I mean, it's really fun. It's a little bit too much Take That, but this almost feels like it has nothing that's Take That. You've got some weapons and stuff that you can play to do damage to other players and stuff. But if somebody's like runaway leader syndrome where, they just made all the great decisions or whatever and people rested, or he rested at the right time and then you didn't because now they just rolled the die 400 times and everybody dies, Well, I mean, I'm sure that he would die too because you're only taking half damage, but I don't know. I guess it's really interesting to collect my thoughts on this because I want to say a lot of positive things about it, but there's a lot of negative things that I don't see getting better for me.
Yeah. I think I came in second maybe, but I did really good on the trophy board. I was going to say otherwise, it seems like if you don't do well on the trophy board, which I had a weapon that would allow me to collect double trophies if the monster died that turn, I believe
that's pretty awesome.
I believe is how that card works. So my trophy track was pretty good. But I feel like if you are not doing good on the track itself, then you die once, then you're pretty much relying on everyone else to die at some point for you to be able to catch up.
Yeah, if you die and you have blood echoes
and no one else dies, you're losing.
It's bad.
Right.
It's super bad. And you don't really die that often. Like even in a 3-player game, we didn't die that often. So that final boss where it says if you die twice, you're removed from the game, I almost feel like that would put a little bit more pressure in the game. Like I do want to play with him. I think we've kind of avoided him because we didn't like the player elimination element. However, I think that final boss would add a little bit of pressure to the team. It's like you really don't want to die now.
Oh yeah, that makes your decisions a little bit bigger.
Yeah, I wonder if that, like, if it plays really well like that, it'd almost be a cool optional rule just to play with all the time, even if you're not playing with that final boss. I don't know. The biggest thing is in Cutthroat Caverns, if somebody is doing really well, I mean, you still need them around because, unlike this, if people die, like the guy's going to run away, or it's going to have more rounds and you can kill him. But some of the bosses in Cutthroat Caverns, you have to have people alive to be able to kill it.
Right.
Just because you can't do enough damage before it's going to murder your face. Anyway, I mean, a couple of little things that I kind of have a problem with is I don't know, like all the artwork kind of blends together to me. I feel like it works better in animation, but when you start taking screens of really dark monster 3D art and stuff like that, it just kind of blends in, especially when it's very monochromatic.
Mm-hmm.
Like everything's just black and white and gray. And it's not that it's bad, it just doesn't really bring you in. I mean, it's dark and everything, but I almost can't tell you what any of the monsters look like.
Right.
Or even the cards for that matter. I mean, except for some of the weapons, they're kind of funny looking.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, the other thing I was really saddened about is the final boss. I feel like it's just free points. You know, you get to the final boss, he has tons of hit points, but he has no special ability now. You know, because his special abilities apply throughout the whole game, but then I wish he had a second special ability at the very end. He's like, I'm so BA. You know, now every time you hit me, you take a damage or something. I don't know, like just something else. Like, wasn't there a one monster or boss that says anytime you hit him, if you played a melee weapon or something, you do damage to the person on your left? Like cool abilities like that, where it's like, man, I don't know. I
don't remember that, but I mean, that would sound fun.
That may have been in a different.
Well, no, that would actually be kind of crazy.
It's crazy.
I mean, if it does that, that's nuts. Because then you're talking about you could knock someone down to half. Because most of the stuff by a certain point, most people have stuff that'll do 3-4 damage. So if you're doing that to a player, well, you're knocking them down about halfway.
You say most of it, but I mean, there's really not that many things in the game that do that much damage. I mean, I think 90% of the time you're like 2, 1, 2.
Well, it seemed like the upgraded weapons, then they do 3, and then if you got like the good one that might do 4, but it didn't have a special on it.
Yeah, I mean, there's one melee weapon that does 4, and there's it's like an ability, and it does damage equal to the number of damage cards or melee weapons you have that you haven't used. In the game, the other reason you got to rest with the Hunter's Dream is because every card you play stays out, like discarded.
Right.
And you don't get those back until you rest. So, I mean, it does have a little bit of a deduction if you're playing with, you know, players, because like you're like, all right, well, he's already played his pistol, he's already played that, and I guess if you can count cards really well or remember what everybody's drawn, you can really kind of optimal play. But at the same time, I don't feel like it's that big of a deal anyway. I mean, there's only one card I feel like you have to pay attention to, and it's the one where it says anybody who plays a melee weapon this turn does damage to themselves or something.
Yeah. Or
they take damage, because I mean that can hurt pretty well. But all the other PvP kind of stuff is like 1 damage. Do 1 damage to all their players. Or the grenades do 1 damage to pretty much everything.
Right.
So, I don't know. Is this good for people that play the video game? They don't play board games and they want to get a board game / card game version of it. It'll probably satisfy them. I just feel like maybe we're wishing it was Cutthroat Caverns and it's not.
Yeah.
But it doesn't need to be, no. But even taking away Cutthroat Caverns and how well it plays, I just feel like there's some things missing that really, maybe I just need more plays to be able to see the strategy and everything. I just don't, I don't know. I feel like I don't feel like I'm doing anything wrong. I don't die all the time.
Right.
I bank when I need to. I hit stuff when I need to. Maybe other people rest quicker, or maybe just the turn order kind of screws me up because other people get better weapons than me at first. But I mean, that just depends on where. That's the other thing about the final boss too in a 5-player game. And if you're like if you're going last, on the boss, you're like getting nothing.
Right.
I don't know. I guess we don't want to harp too much. I will say the other thing is, though, I got promos at Gen Con when I bought this.
Yes.
I thought they were promos, but it was actually just a misprint. They didn't put the word boss on all the mini bosses, basically. So they printed up replacement copies, and I had no clue. They didn't tell me about that at all, and I had to read it online. I was like, these are in the game. So, anyway, final thoughts?
I mean, I'll play it again. It sounds like less is more, maybe, player-wise. We did play it with 5 people, so I don't know if that maybe skewers the experience a little bit, or...
Actually, I did have a lot more fun 3-player.
Yeah, so me personally, maybe, I would play it again. I'm not saying I'm not going to ever want to play it again, but maybe next time with, less people might be a little bit more fun.
It is fast.
Yeah, it is fast either way.
Especially when players know what all the abilities and stuff do and what the upgrade cards are and everything. I mean, you could kick through that game real fast.
Mm-hmm.
So, let me ask you one more question before we stop. Do you think the die mechanic, I mean, is gimmicky as it sounds because it's infinite damage, it's so threatening? I actually don't like it. What do you think?
I guess I don't know what I think about it. I mean, it was interesting. You do worry about it, but it wasn't such a threat. I don't think it. I mean, you're either going to do something or you're not going to do it. You don't worry about the burst, because if the burst happens, then it just...
You almost can't do anything about it.
Yeah, you can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
So, again, that's where I felt like the decision making wasn't like... You don't sit there and try and calculate, like, well, if he burst once, I'll be, it's like, I don't want him to burst at all.
Right, yeah. I feel like if it's green, go. If it's red, always rest.
Yeah.
And if it's yellow, if you're at full health, go.
Right.
So, I don't know. Maybe that just sounds pretty normal. Like no duh, but I don't know. We're going to need more plays for this one.
Yeah.
Usually I'm pretty solid on my on my ideas of a game after 3 or 4 plays, but this one I think that I'm just going to need to put more into it.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, that's Bloodbourne, the card game.
The card game.
Yeah, the card game.